Remember, welcome back to Rewind with bschwitty, because I'll have what she's having. I thought I'd show my love for Star Wars today on this Wind Down Wednesday because, we're going to be talking about space. And we're going to drink that Petite Sirah from Monday that I didn't cut into. So, as you may have saw over the weekend, Disneyland showed off their new plans for a Star Wars themed land inside the park, which made me think back to an article I saw earlier in the week, I think it was, about growing wine grapes in space. We always see alcohol in Star Trek, and I think even, remember there's a cantina in the first Star Wars movie, so there's definitely booze in space. The question is, can we, in real life, grow wine in space? And you may be saying, bschwitty, that's a stupid question. Wine doesn't grow in space. You would have to grow grapes in space and then ferment them into wine. And I say, yes, that's true. But there's an article on Gizmodo talking to a NASA scientist who's working on the Veggie project, a vegetable production system for the International Space Station, and I guess NASA in general. So the scientist, this is a tough one, Gioia Massa, suggested that grapes could grow in space under the right conditions. Obviously not in the vacuum of space, but, inside spacecraft like the International Space Station. So they said that wine grapes would be an interesting challenge. We have been working on some dwarf fruit trees that the USDA developed, and I have heard that they also have some dwarf grapevines. Isn't that interesting? If the plants are small enough, they could be trained around the lights, and it could be grown around them, in theory, from this NASA scientist. Now, most plants for space are super compact, as Massa explained. But if you had vines that you could coil or clip in a larger plant, it might be an option. Basically, the interview was Gizmodo, a bunch of millennials, trying to find some clickbaity thing for them to talk about with an actual scientist. So, most of the article is kind of boring. Massa doesn't know much about the winemaking process. She figures you could use a microbial bioreactor to ferment the wine in space. But I was thinking, given the fact that there isn't much room in the International Space Station, I don't think you could really develop enough grapes to make more than a couple bottles. So I did some quick math, and trust me, I'm rusty. But I determined that you couldn't grow enough grapes to make more than a couple bottles of wine per year on the International Space Station. Join me over at Camera 1 to see my findings. Hello, Camera 1. It's been a while. I've missed you. Sorry we had to pull out Camera 3. It's just the thing that happened. Anyways, welcome to the math section of today. Cheers. So, given the current size of our International Space Station, we possibly couldn't grow enough grapes to make more than a couple bottles of wine. For semi-quality wine, you probably want 2.5 tons per acre of vines, which means there is from there a half ton of grapes probably equates to a barrel of wine, depending on the yield and the year. A barrel is about 300 bottles if there's no loss, and that means that 7,500 bottles of wine is about an acre of grapes. And since 1 acre equals 43,560 square feet, this will yield 0.17 bottles per square foot, which means you'll roughly need about 6 square feet of vines to create a bottle of wine. Now, that's not too big of an issue, but when you start thinking about the size of the International Space Station, the habitable zone is 13,696 cubic feet. The truss length of the entire space station is 357.5 feet, which means that if you were to fill the entire length of the truss with grapes, you'd get about 59 bottles of wine. That wouldn't leave room for anything else. That would just be the International Winemaking Station. Or no, even better, it would be the International Grape Growing Station. You would need something else to ferment the wine in and process. So that wouldn't leave much room for anything else in the space station. The size of the US lab at the International Space Station is 28 feet in length. If you were to utilize the entirety of that capsule, you would probably get about 4 bottles of wine per harvest of grapes. Now, I know since they're in space, there's probably going to be a different amount of growing conditions, which may yield more harvests per year when the grapes are ripe. I'm not a biologist. I can't really speak to you about how greenhouse growing the grapes will affect the wine or the quality or the harvest time. But under normal conditions, this would only yield about 4 bottles of wine per year. And let's just say that wine's probably not going to be the greatest. But and meet me back at our normal camera 2 for this. Does it really matter? You'll have 4 bottles of wine in space. Fermentation is probably an easier process to take care of in space since it's anaerobic. Off-gassing and stuff like that might be a little bit concerning in the space station, but I think the microbial bioreactor would help facilitate the fermentation process. Not that I know much about it. All I know is my little math says that you're not going to get much yield on the International Space Station. And why put all the effort to just get a couple bottles of wine? Did I really just say that? Anyways, that's Wine Down Wednesday for today. I drank this 2011 Reserve Castoro Cellars Petite Sirah. Didn't kill me, which is always good. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Do you have better math capabilities than I do? Show me up in the comments below. And remember, subscribe button somewhere over here, or here. I think that's about right. Yeah, the red one. The red. Okay. Anyways, I'll see you on Friday. We're gonna try out some aerators, and yeah, still don't have an outro. Bye.